there was a report in the Wall Street Journal that came out a few weeks ago talking about an investigation by the Washington State Attorney General's office into your groups, Second Amendment Foundation, the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms, are two separate entities that you are a director of, and then also you filed a countersuit, or not a countersuit, right? Because there haven't actually been any charges. Just to start off, there haven't actually been any charges brought by the Attorney General, right?
Correct.
Okay, so there are no formal accusations of any wrongdoing at this point.
That's correct.
And but you guys have filed a lawsuit, a civil rights suit against the Attorney General.
Yeah, we have, mainly because, quite frankly, we were served what they call civil investigative demands. They served us with 8 of them. And the only group we supposedly are investigating, it's all with regard to the Second Amendment Foundation, but anything I'm involved in got these CIDs. And we decided that while they were overbroad and they were just ridiculous, we were going to cooperate anyway and give them everything they asked for. And to date, we've given them, a deposition. We've done interrogatories and production for documents. We've actually supplied them over 75,000 documents, pages of files and documents in our office. They've basically raped all our file cabinets. We've given them everything they've asked for. They've not come back to us and said, here's what you've done wrong. Our attorney said, well, if there's something wrong, we're more than happy to try to correct it, but they haven't. They just keep intimidating us and demanding more and more documents. We've already spent $120,000 plus providing them the information in legal and accounting fees, not counting hundreds of hours of staff time. And they just keep doing this. Our attorneys have demanded that they, pay for our legal fees and that they destroy all the documents we've given them because they've got things they shouldn't even have that we've given them, all kinds of personal information as well, credit card information, all kinds of things. And one of our concerns is they have a staff member who used to be on, or I think still is, on the board of directors of one of the state anti-gun rights groups that he's hired and put on the staff, who's in the same division that's doing the so-called investigation. And we want an apology for this. And of course, they just don't respond. They don't do anything. When we made that demand, they canceled a number of depositions they had with staff members here. And then when we filed the suit, they canceled the rest of the depositions that they had asked for. And so they're sort of like now in hiding. But
they've made no statements about charging you or dropping the investigation, anything in that regard.
No, they've made no statement about dropping the investigation, and they've made no statements about making any charges of wrongdoing. But it's just they're tying up our money, and quite frankly, our civil rights complaint, Stephen, basically, we believe this is retaliation for our political positions where we stand. We have 3 other lawsuits besides this one against the Attorney General of Washington State. One on the 18 to 20-year-old young adults not being able to buy semi-automatic rifles. We have one on the magazine bans that the state passed. We have one on the so-called assault weapon ban that they got and passed. And this is sheer intimidation back to us, trying to tie us up, waste our time, and waste our money. And we're just a little tired of it.
Right. And so, but it's obviously in this atmosphere, we've seen what's happened with the NRA. People in the gun rights movement are concerned about the transparency of how organizations are run. They want to know that their money is going towards, those lawsuits that you mentioned, and not towards, anything else, like personal expenses or things of that nature. So let's get into some of the accusations that the Wall Street Journal mentioned. Like, again, I do want to make clear that there isn't any sort of charges to this. You aren't actually under any sort of criminal case or civil case from the state at this point. But the Wall Street Journal raised a few concerns that I think are worth bringing to you and having you address, right? And so the main crux of this centers around some firms that you own personally that do business with the Second Amendment Foundation and the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms. Now, I will say I did look at your 990s for 2021 and back to 2020. And that's before any of this, before the Wall Street Journal pieces from just a few weeks ago. So before any of this became, the concern of the news, you were disclosing all these things. How long have you been disclosing that relationship, first of all?
for 40 years.
Okay.
Or more, actually more than 40 years. The Attorney General has gone back and
So
asked.
this isn't a
No,
new thing necessarily. It's
the
been
Attorney General,
disclosed in the 990s.
the Attorney General has gone back 40 years for asking for this information. It's to be honest about it, we've been audited by the Internal Revenue Service several times. We're independent audited by outside accountants every single year. All this is disclosed in the audits, in the tax returns, on our website. We try to be extremely transparent about this. And obviously somebody in the AG's office either leaked directly to the Wall Street Journal or leaked to somebody else who leaked to the Wall Street Journal that this investigation was going on. And so the Wall Street Journal, I don't think got the documents from the AG's office, but got them right off our website.
Yes, and that's where I got your 990s. It's not, as far as I can tell, that none of that is a hidden relationship. It's certainly something that is disclosed. How long, and there weren't any periods in time where you were doing this work that where you weren't disclosing it, right?
No, it's
Okay.
always been publicly disclosed, and quite frankly, the reason why you publicly disclosed it is it's in the benefit and the interest of the foundation because it lowers their cost of operation. This goes back. I guess I'm going back over 40 years ago. We had some employees that tried to take the organization over, and they filed a suit in state court here in Washington, of which they lost, and we won a counter judgment for defamation against them. But some of their claims were the office building we're in, which again is disclosed in our audits and our tax returns, that we initially bought it jointly because the groups couldn't get financial loans to be able to do it. So my wife and I put our names and interest on the line, so to speak. And then over time we divided the property where we own the office building and they own the land. And then they ran into financial trouble and we bought the land back from them. They rented the building from us. And what's interesting is this was one of the initial charges way back when, 40 years ago, where the court ruled on it that the transaction was legal and in the interest of the foundation. And so the Attorney General should know that, and the Wall Street Journal should have known that. That wasn't in their article that the Washington State court, Superior Court in the state of Washington, stamped it as approved. Then likewise, one of the other transactions is a company of mine that is the list brokerage, mailing list brokerage, and competitive bidding for printing and mailing to outside firms in behalf of the foundation. And we charge 3 cents for every piece we mail that gets mailed that we work on. And the list rental brokerage, we get a 20% commission, which any list broker would get. So we get exactly what anybody else would get if they did it. And on the 3 cents, it's interesting, that was also in the lawsuit 40 years ago. And that 3 cents was set by the state court, set the rate at 3 cents 40 years ago. And it's never been raised 1 nickel in 40 years. And again, the state court, approved it. And so for the AG of the Wall Street Journal to bring this up 40 years later is a little bit ridiculous.